Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Leadership Insights with me, Prashant. आप सबको मेरा प्यार भरा नमस्कार. I'm back on Saturday at 11 a.m. and we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube again as promised. और आज हम फिर से कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक लेके आए हैं, कुछ इंसाइटफुल कॉन्वर्सेशंस लेके आए हैं, जहां पे हम ऐसी चीजों के बारे में बात करेंगे जो लीडरशिप को, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को, enthusiastic लीडर्स को, एस्पायरिंग लीडर्स को, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को हेल्प करेगी to lead their organizations better, to lead their people better, get better results, and improve the overall culture of the organization. That is the goal of these conversations. और आज जिस बारे में हम बात करने वाले हैं, that topic is very critical and crucial, especially in today's dynamic times. We're going to talk about cross-functional leadership. Because the way the world is moving and has been moving ahead for a while, it is getting more and more dynamic day by day. And with that is also coming more interconnectedness, more value of collaboration, of people, of teams, of functions, of organizations across geographies. और इससे इनोवेशन बहुत बढ़ रही है, रिजल्ट्स बहुत अच्छे आ रहे हैं, and it's a very big plus and a positive for organizations. Now, while cross-functional leadership is the way forward and it's delivering amazing results, as everything, it has its own challenges. And it's the leadership of the organization who has to ensure that while this solution adds great value to them and the organization, how do we effectively manage this? How do we effectively implement this and lead this entire process so that it gives us the results in the right manner, where there is a perfect balance between people, performance, results, and the happiness quotient as well. So, to have this conversation and understand it more, we have a guest with us who specializes in leading cross functional teams. He's been doing it for a very long time, and he has agreed to join us today to share his wisdom, his experiences of over the years with us, and help us understand how to be a more effective cross functional leader. So today we'll be joined by a senior leader who has more than 2 decades of professional experience. And as I said, one of his core competencies is cross-functional leadership. He is currently the Director of Global Shared Service at Ramhol, a leading engineering and design consultancy with over 16,000 employees. With more than 2 decades of experience in setting up, managing, and transforming finance and HR shared services and outsourcing centers in various industries, he has a proven track record of delivering mission-critical results and driven bottom-line growth. That's very critical. Now, other than cross-functional team leadership, his other competencies include strategy, service delivery, process improvement, automation, and many more. He's a very passionate person, especially when it comes about creating a world-class standard global process, enabling business integration, and cultivating a culture of continuous improvement. So to have a conversation with us today, let's welcome Mr. Deepak Kumbhat.
Hi,
Good
everyone.
morning, Deepak.
Morning, Prashant, and morning to everyone logged in. How are you?
I'm good, Deepak. How are you doing?
I am good as well, and thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for being on this show. Thank you for agreeing to come here and share your experience with us. And I'm so looking forward to this topic of cross-functional leadership because it's so much about people with different perspectives coming together with different thought processes, different skill sets, sometimes even different geographies. तो उन लोगों को lead करना, as much as it seems interesting and exciting, I'm sure it also has challenges जो उसके साथ आते होंगे. So that is what we will talk about. So a quick
Yeah.
check before we get into this conversation, because last time we faced a challenge with an echo on calls. Is my sound clear, video clear? Do you see anything? Do you hear any echo?
No, I don't hear any echo. It seems to be working fine.
Perfect. Great. So let's begin our conversation. So thank you so much, everyone who is live with us on the show. Thank you so much for joining us, and everyone who will watch this later in recording because of the value that we bring in those conversations. Thank you to you as well. So moving on, coming back to our guest, Mr. Deepak Kumbhat. So Deepak, my first question to you on this topic of cross-functional leadership is that we understand that it's evolving as a critical skill, especially in today's dynamic work environment. What are your thoughts on this statement?
I think cross-functional leadership has always been there, but what has happened now with lot of organizations completely global, or in the sense that Earlier, we used to have conventional organization structure, one location setup. But with the globalization of things and the globalization of the industry, we have in most of the organization today a matrix based organization. So I will
Mm-hmm.
come to that what how matrix organization work. But before that, I just want to draw the attention of the audience on simple thing. And I am taking a very common man language example, wherein say for example you are sitting in your house and
Mm-hmm.
you need various services. So you go to the grocery shop, you go to the saloon, you go to the gym, you go for movie, you go to the shopping malls, and all this is possible because you are touching areas or aspects in your life, and you are trying to reach. I mean, you can have your own groceries. Why can't you have your own groceries? But it is difficult because it requires a lot of manual work. There's land required, there will be people required, so you approach experts, and hence it becomes easy. On a click of a button you can ask for these services. It is the same in the corporate world because alone, say for example, now I'm moving to a corporate example. If I am a transformation leader with my operations and service delivery team, I will be limping if I don't have a support of process excellence, if I don't have the support of HR services, if I don't have the automation or the RPA Center of Excellence, and various other services, so to say. And IT to be more specific, because now we are IT driven. So in that sense, the it is important for any leader to be efficient and effective in their work, that they have to connect with various, besides the different stakeholders, they have to have expertise of small pockets in different directions, maybe different teams, and utilize them as and when required. So that is the reason why cross functional leadership has become very, very critical and important. And also from the sense that earlier you used to have one reporting manager or one reporting boss, right? Today the concept have diluted. Your reporting boss becomes very administrative as you grow up, and you are more or less dealing with a lot of people or stakeholders who are deemed bosses because they are at those powerful positions in the organization, and you need to consider their needs and requirements, which you can't
Mm-hmm.
alone fulfill unless you have a cross-functional leadership. So if my one of my bosses sitting in say Middle East want me to involve one of the resources in the project, which is basically a requirement of French-speaking resource, so I have to find somebody from my France team, right? I can't just say that, okay, I am a India based, so I don't have that skill set. Either I have to hire it in India, or I have to look at my global locations to find that. So that is why now the cross functional leadership is, I mean, it is not important, it is a hygiene, and it has become a hygiene.
Interesting. So, from what I hear, Deepak, you're saying is cross functional leadership is not something that's optional anymore. It's not something that you can choose not to have or do for your organization. If you
Right.
want efficient results, if you want results delivered in quickest possible manner, if you want the right people working on the right area of expertise that they specialize in, so that
Right.
they can contribute in the best possible manner towards the project. It could be a simple an example of language of somebody speaking French, or something as complicated as somebody who knows a machine learning language. It could be
Mhm.
either of those. But if that is the requirement, then when you are open to working across functions, across geographies at different locations, your
Right.
resource pool becomes much wider. And not just your resource pool becoming wider, even for people who are there as resources, the opportunities for them also open up, because they can also work across functions, across geographies. So it increases opportunities for the team members as well. So what I hear you
Absolutely.
saying is that it's not optional anymore. If you want
It
great
is.
results, if you want efficient results, this is the way forward. And you use the term globalization in the beginning. because the world is
Right.
getting closer day by day. It's becoming smaller day by day. Vasudev Kutumbakam that we so firmly believe in is becoming a reality and has become a reality as the universe has come together. And that's what I see in your response. So I would like to give a tagline to your response. A takeaway would be that cross functional leadership is not optional anymore. It is the way to move forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I give another example on this. I was working on a project with General Electric in 2003-4. So what happened is General Electric, as you know, is a big organization, and we transferred lot of work at different point of time, right? So from
Mhm.
US, from UK, etc., we transferred lot of work, and it was different set of team within the finance and the HR world who transferred these processes, and they transferred these processes in silos, like it has happened over a period of 3 or 4 years. Now, what happened is all these processes were somehow interrelated. So when somebody transferred the processes and somebody faced a issue, they used to write to US and UK, right? And they kept doing it over the years unless somebody realized that they don't need to talk to people sitting in US. The person who is doing this work is sitting right across the table, and hence it is important that you look around. Nowadays in the globalization world, it is all about transformational leadership. We are always talking about wing to wing process improvement. We are no more talking about wall to wall process improvement because the impact will be that less, and hence
Hmm.
also the cross functional leadership has become important. Awareness has become that is the key factor. If you're not aware of what's happening around you, however knowledgeable you are, however intelligent you are within your group or within your team, you are preparing a perfect recipe for failure.
Hmm. बिल्कुल आई कैन रिलेट टू व्हाट यू आर सेइंग और मेरे दिमाग में जो कहावत आती है इज एक कहावत है हिंदी में कि बगल में छुरी और शहर में ढिंडोरा
True.
it brings me to that कि you don't know what skills somebody has who is sitting right next to you. वो बंदा वो चीज डिलीवर कर सकता है बट जस्ट दैट यू आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ इट. People are not aware of it. It was never spoken about. Is why you're looking for people around the world and maybe even interviewing people. You don't know what all you're doing to find that resource just because you
Mhm.
don't know कि वो बंदा आपके बाजू में बैठा है and he has that skill set. He or she
True.
doesn't know that there is a requirement. You don't know there is an availability of that skill set because across functions, across teams, we're not collaborating enough, not getting
Correct.
aware. I like the word that you use, awareness. Do you have enough awareness of what you can bring to the table? Do you have awareness of what others around can bring to the table so that more than just what they are doing, what they have been hired for, they have million more capabilities that they can bring forward, and are we utilizing them, are we aware of them? So that's a very valid point, Deepak. Very beautiful
Absolutely. I
point.
totally
I
agree
love
with
that.
you.
और आपने जो पहले एग्जांपल दिया ना ग्रोसरी वाला, तो फॉर एवरीबॉडी
Right.
टू अंडरस्टैंड एट अ वेरी लेमैन लेवल, आई एम जस्ट विजुअलाइजिंग इट कि सब्जी खरीदने एक जेप्टो पे या ब्लिंकिट पे या स्विगी इंस्टामार्ट पे बटन दबाने के बजाय अगर मैं बाहर जा रहा हूँ, ढूंढ रहा हूँ और 10 दुकानों में मुझे वो चीज़ नहीं मिल रही है, देयर इज सो मच टाइम एंड
So
एफर्ट
much.
दैट goes into getting that desired output. But now the
Right.
same output can be reached in a very less time with very minimum dependency on you. You just have to click couple of buttons and just continue doing what you're doing. 10-15 मिनट में आपके पास आ जाएगा कहीं से भी जो आना होगा. So that's a very beautiful example of cross functional leadership.
Right. And that's where, I mean, if you kind of take that example further, that's how technology is impacting not only the common man's life, but also the corporate life. I mean, there is
Hmm.
more and more focus on we should do more value added work. I mean, the
Hmm.
shared service that I am driving today, when we started the shared service 6 years back in my current organization, the objective was cost arbitrage. I mean, we all wanted to do is to move a transactional level work from a different location, which was expensive, and utilize the arbitrage factor from India. But slowly, as we evolved and we realized that it is better to move that into a capability center. So today,
Hmm.
the shared services has moved from a transactional processing work to a capability center, where we are now doing more strategic work. Any problem, any challenges that organization faces, say for example, technology intervention. Somebody says
Hmm.
that this is not working, I am spending too much of time. They look at shared services to use that technology and kind of give it to them as a final product. So we are now moving. I mean, technology is playing a big role. It is changing the landscape of the way we work and we think. So, I
Hmm.
just a quote that I remember that when a new technology rolls over, right? When a new technology rolls over, and you are, if you are not a part of the road roller, then you will become a part of the road. So not
Nice.
using technology, not using technology is no more a choice. I mean, it has to be, or you will become incompetent.
Beautifully expressed, Deepak. That quote, those lines sum it up so well. What do you want to be a part of, the road roller or the road? You make a
So,
choice.
yes, yes,
Interesting. And I like the fact that the transition that you spoke about is so vital for us as a country as well. How the world looks at us is different. It's not just about cutting costs, it's not just about getting the transactional, tactical, bottom line work done with somebody who will charge less to do that work, because there
right,
is no mind required. You can just go and get it done in a very monotonous manner. I'm glad that this awareness is becoming more and more, and the transition is coming where we are getting more involved in more strategic kind of work, where we are able to add value more from a capability point of view. I like that word that you used. The transition from transactional to capability driven thought process. I think that's a very beautiful transaction to happen, and it brings in so many opportunities again, for organizations and for people, because there is so much more people can do than just do the transactional work that they
right,
typically have been hired for. So
right.
that's very interesting, Deepak, and this also in some ways brings forward challenges and opportunities for organizations to upskill, cross skill people, right? Because there is more possibilities, so you need to know more to be able to contribute more. So I think that also is very interesting from a people point of view, that I have more opportunities there now. I don't have to just continue doing the same monotonous work and retire in 40 years. Every 2 3 years something new is happening. I need to keep upgrading myself and move forward. And I think that's what will make me the part of the road roller and not the part of the road, from what you said.
Absolutely, and to that point of yours, where you're saying you need to keep upskilling your workforce, is has become so critical, because many times in various aspects of the organization, and also when I talk to the peers in the industry, I see that people kept doing the job what they are hired for, but the fact is that job does not exist anymore. We do not want that people, because we now need people who can plug in the gaps between the technology and the value add services. Because I
Mm,
mean, 10 years back we were talking about transactional processing. Now we are talking about how the humans and the bots, hum bots, can work together, and that brings a different risk, because if an error is made, will it be the human responsible or bot responsible? So you need
God.
to think ahead of the curve and insure
Yeah,
yourself of any risk when you're working with the third party or things like that. So unless you are thinking and reskilling yourself and see the environment also is upgraded to that matter, you are bound to fail.
absolutely, Deepak. I'm liking the detailing of the conversation that we are getting into, and the practicality of the conversation of what's happening on the ground and what is required. One thing that I see, and quite often, because I work with a lot of leaders and I coach them, so I get to know the reality behind the scenes of what's happening. And one of the challenges that I see very obviously out there is again a quote that I can relate to, is that change gets lost somewhere between intention and action.
Correct.
There is a lot of awareness, because that's a word that we used earlier, but then for that change to happen, to transition from that awareness into implementation, execution, and move forward, that becomes a challenge somewhere. So my next question to you, Deepak, to take this conversation forward, is that we understand the importance of cross functional teams now. It's very clear
Yeah,
from our conversation that it's not a choice anymore. It's not optional. It is the way forward, and it's the best for the organizations, and it's the best way forward for the people to get more opportunities, to do more interesting things, more capability driven things than just the monotonous things. Now, having
correct.
understood that, it's also at a people level, at a psychological level, important to understand that you are now working with people who have different priorities and interests because they're coming from different cultures, different backgrounds, different intentions. So how do
Correct.
you manage as a leader these competing interests to keep your team focused and moving forward towards the goal that you've set?
Correct. So I think when again it comes to the basic principle that when you are managing your own team, I mean the other challenge that leaders have today in leading the cross-functional teams is it is impossible that everybody you work with will report into you. So which means that you can't use the stick to drive their discipline or
Mhm.
to drive their actions. You will have
Mhm.
to be cognizant of facts that what is their requirement, what is that they are working for, what projects
Mhm.
are they working for, and what is their level of priority, right? To anybody, for me to drive anybody, say for example, if I'm using the process excellence team for one of my projects, and if they have 10 priorities, they will obviously focus on the highest priority, and
Mhm.
that may not be my project. So,
Mhm.
so I need to understand that what is driving them, and then use the organization levers to ensure that my priorities does not get lost in the bundle of other tasks that they have. And
Mhm.
that brings me to the question: is everybody should ask themselves, or the leader should ask themselves, that if I am giving that work to this person, what is in it for them? Does it bring glory? Does it bring the benefit that they can boast of? Because everybody has an objective to meet. And if
Mhm.
I align my task to their objective, I am in a win win situation, because they will work enthusiastically because they know that by doing this, they are doing good for themselves. And so I can't singularly say that you do this and leave everything else. So I have to be very smart. Secondly, I have to use the organization lever. So if, for example, a particular set of team is not working fine, I need to find the right channels to escalate it, or maybe talk to the right people so that they can be brought back to the track, because my talking will not help because they does not report into me. I can only say that this is not working fine, or you need to do this. But if there is a capability issue, if you need senior people, if you know more skilled people, then you have to talk to the right people around the globe. And
Mhm.
that is why the cross functional leadership, I mean, that is why it is a change. You do not now drive by stick or reward, but you need to understand that, as Simon Sneak puts it, that you need to find the why people should do. Why it's a
Mhm.
golden circle. If you are clear that why they are doing it, then you are in a much better position, because you can then take your actions accordingly. But if you're missing that why and trying to drive your own agenda, then you will the either the progress will be slow, or you will not be able to deliver what you want to deliver,
Mhm.
right? And in this factor, the another thing that is coming into play, especially after the COVID, is the human interaction, right?
Mhm.
So no more work 100% in person, and you don't interact with these people and talk casually. There is a lesser coffee breaks, or there is a lesser time when you bump into a person while crossing without a meeting. So that human interaction is very important, because what happens is today there is a need that, okay, this needs to be done, but in a project which runs say 6 months, there are other priorities and changes. So unless you are interacting with that person and understanding that he is deviating because of this, you are losing the focus, because you keep thinking that no, that was his need and you have given that and it is working fine. So it is very important that personal touch after the COVID is very, very important. and that will drive the consensus building, and you will not compromise on any crucial things, which is the requirement of the cross-functional team.
Interesting, Deepak. From what you say, if I have to just bring out the cracks, would be that connection with people becomes very important for you to work in cross-functional teams. It can't be driven in a dictatorial manner anymore, in an authoritarian manner anymore. That's the challenge that cross-functional team brings in, because there are people reporting to multiple people at the same time. सो दैट अप्रोच ऑफ कि अच्छा यहाँ बैठो ये करो 5 बजे तक ये खत्म कर देना उनके सर पे बैठे रह के काम कराना इज नॉट द वे टू मूव फॉरवर्ड एनी मोर दैट टाइम इज गॉन दैट वर्ल्ड इज गॉन सो दैट
Absolutely,
connection
absolutely.
becomes important.
Attention become important, and also to understand, if this cross functional leadership, and as we are growing globally, it requires everybody from a very junior person in your organization to a senior person to have a problem solving skill. That is
Mm,
very important, and
mm,
that is not something, a classroom thing that you can get into a person, but this is
mm,
something that you need to inculcate as a culture. Problem
mm,
solving mindset is important, and you quickly need to realize कि गलती कहाँ पर हुई है. What I mean, you don't, in a fast moving pace organization, you don't have a time to sit back and curse yourself on the mistakes that you have done. You have to identify why it happened, and take a corrective actions and preventive actions immediately, right? So,
mm.
I'm in a class that reminds me of a classic quote, and I'll use Hindi in this, that uh, उम्र भर गालिब उम्र भर गालिब हम यही भूल करते रहे, उम्र भर गालिब हम यही भूल करते रहे, धूल चेहरे पे थी हम आईना साफ करते रहे.
वाह वाह बहुत खूब.
So that is why, I mean, it is important to understand where the problem lies. Is it a
Mm,
technical problem? Is it a problem of intent, or is it a problem of motivation or skill set? And then you need to correct it and move ahead. You don't have the time to just sit on this and say that what to do now. You will have
mm,
to take rapid action, and that is why you alone cannot do it. That is why the problem solving skills have to be inculcated on each team member who is on the project, because you
mm,
can't be omnipresent.
mm. Well said, Deepak. A very insightful expression of words, thoughts, and a very interesting manner to do that with that share. I'm glad that's how you put it across. तो मेरे दिमाग में एक एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज जो मेरे को क्लिक हुई आपकी कॉन्वर्जेशन में, एक तो कनेक्शन की बात हुई, उसमें थोड़ा डीपर जाने की जरूरत है, क्योंकि what I understand is that what's happening around, there is a lot of conversation that's happening around with the increase of dependency on technology, especially with the artificial intelligence now coming in, and there are a lot of thoughts that are coming in people's minds कि यार सब कुछ technology dependent हो रहा है. So what will be the importance of human connection anymore? Will it, how relevant will it remain as technology starts becoming much more important and relevant and prominent in our lives? लेकिन आपने जो कहा उससे एक बहुत खूबसूरत चीज निकल के आई है, that इसके एग्जैक्टली उल्टा देखने की जरूरत है. मोर एंड मोर टेक्नोलॉजी बिकम्स अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर लाइफ, द इम्पोर्टेंस, द वाइटैलिटी, द क्रिटिकलिटी, द नीड ऑफ ह्यूमन कनेक्शन विल बिकम मोर. जहां हमको लग रहा है कि वो उसका ग्राफ नीचे जाएगा,
Right.
उसका ग्राफ ऊपर जाएगा दिन ब दिन और बहुत ज्यादा स्केल करेगा, शायद इतना कभी हुआ ही ना हो ह्यूमन हिस्ट्री में. That we will
True.
so much want human connection because the scope of human connection has reduced, the dependency has reduced on it, is why we
Right.
feel we need to move away from it. या इंसानियत की वैल्यू नहीं रहेगी, सब कुछ मशीनी तरीके से होने लगेगा. But in
True.
your
True.
conversation, that I'm so happy that came out so beautifully, that it will actually increase your human connection, genuine connection with other people will become much more valued now, because it is rare now. जो चीज rare होती है from a
True.
supply demand point of view, उसकी
Yep.
उसकी डिमांड ज्यादा होगी, राइट? तो अगर आप में वो capability है where you can genuinely connect with people, understand what is in it for them, understand their why, as you rightly said, कि what is their intention, what will they gain from it, why should this be a priority for them, Why should they prioritize my thing out of the 100 things that are there because they're working on multiple things at the same time? Will come through connection कि मैं दीपक के साथ कितना रिलेट कर पा रहा हूँ, मैं प्रशांत के साथ कितना रिलेट कर पा रहा हूँ, वो मुझे कितना समझा, मैं उसको कितना समझ रहा हूँ. That will start determining things as well. So that becomes very important. और
Right.
दूसरी चीज जो आपने कही, which is again very important, is the problem solving mindset. Rather than getting stuck in the problem, everybody across organizations from the bottommost junior most level to the senior most level has to start developing that problem solving mindset कि इस चीज को कैसे सॉल्व किया जाए, how can I see these things from multiple angles. And that is only possible when you work cross functionally, is when you will have eyes in a very diverse perspective to look at the same thing. तभी अलग अलग different type के solutions निकल के आएंगे.
True.
So this is what I
Absolutely.
picked up from what you said, Deepak. Very beautiful.
Absolutely. And one more thing on the people side, like you rightly pointed out that people are still important. So I was talking to someone in some of the discussions, and there was this talk that AI will replace people and people will lose job. And I said, like, it is less a fear of AI, because AI, any new technology is bound to replace something and the new jobs will be created. But if you think deeper, it is not AI that will replace people, but AI, people who are using AI will replace people who are not using it.
Not
So it is
yeah.
still very important to keep take care of your people, understand them emotionally, empathize with them, and kind of ensure, because a motivated person is 7 times more productive than a demotivated person, and it takes 30 less than 10 seconds to demotivate a person. So
बिल्कुल.
human superiority will still remains. It's just that in the technology driven world, we should not fail to appreciate people, and appreciation is a basic need. I mean, irrespective of what level you are, everybody aspires for appreciation.
बिल्कुल.
So
बिल्कुल. Again another important point. So at this point I would like to talk to people who are listening to us, maybe right now on live or who will listen to the recording. I always
sure.
do this in my conversations when I find something insightful, when I find something that's very useful. uh, because there is a lot of suffering out there because of leadership not being developed the way they should be, not because they don't want to. There probably haven't been opportunities, the right things happening around for people to develop the way they should develop as leaders, right from first level to CEO levels, right? And the objective of these conversations is to bring that awareness, to bring in those insights that you can think about, reflect on, start applying, start implementing, so that you can gain from it. And more than you, your organization, people who work for you, who are dependent on you, or who report to you, who matter to you, are the ones where you can bring in change in their lives as well. And looking it from a results point of view, जब आप ये करेंगे तो organization और team के results improve होंगे ही होंगे.
Right.
So it's a
Absolutely.
request to you that please listen to what we are talking about, listen to what Deepak is saying, go back to these conversations. एक बार सुनने से कुछ नहीं होगा. Listen to what he said, ask yourself questions of what is he trying to say, am I implementing these things, if not, why not, how can I implement these things. And if there are questions that you feel are unanswered, यार मुझे ये पूछने की जरूरत थी या मुझे ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कैसे करूं, drop a message to Deepak on LinkedIn, drop a message to me on LinkedIn. We'll be more than glad to help you to answer those questions and share our perspectives with you. That's why we are in this conversation. We're here to share what we know or what we can find out. So please do that. It's a very valid point that has come up. And coming back to you, Deepak, you spoke about appreciation, you spoke about celebration, and again that becomes so valuable. And again, what I liked about what you said was something in the end where you said it's not dependent on what level you are in that organization. I've seen this a lot of times, that there is a lot of focus on reward, recognition, and appreciation for people who are at junior level. For some reason, as you move from tactical roles to those strategic roles in the organization, it doesn't seem there is a need for appreciation for some reason. And I've seen leaders saying it, ये एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करना अब वो जैसे उस लेवल पे होता था ना, उस लेवल की अप्रिसिएशन, तालियां, रिवॉर्ड, अवार्ड अब नहीं होंगे. क्यों नहीं होंगे? क्यों? जरूरत हर एक लेवल पे है, इंसान ही काम कर रहा है ना. आपने
Right.
इंसान को बदल के वहां पे कोई मशीन तो नहीं रख दी. A human needs appreciation, needs acknowledgement, needs to know that he is doing well. and that's a human need that we have. So let's not discard that just because somebody has moved to a higher level. और पता है, बहुत बार इसका रीजन ये दिया जाता है या बहाना ये दिया जाता है that your job is to drive the team, to appreciate your team, get them going, get them motivated. वो सब तो ठीक है, लेकिन मेरे को कौन मोटिवेट करेगा? मेरे को भी
True.
तो उस चीज की जरूरत है, किसी को ये भी तो देखना है कि मैं क्या अच्छा कर रहा हूँ, so that I know what I need to do more of, what I need to stop doing, what I need to start doing. So please look into that. So thank you for bringing that up, Deepak. That gets missed a lot of times.
Thank you, Prashant, for highlighting and kind of making it more visible.
Great. So moving the conversation forward on what we are talking about, we established in the first conversation that cross-functional leadership is not optional anymore. Then we moved forward and we understood how important in this cross-functional world, in this more collaborative world, it becomes to connect to people as people. Human interaction is much more valuable than we think. The genuine connection with people is much more important than it has ever been. So it's important to build those connections so that you're able to lead people by not that stick, because that's not going to work anymore, by genuine connection, because they want to be led by you. They want to prioritize what you are bringing forward, and they value you, they respect you, they connect you with you, is why they would want to do it for you. That becomes very important as we collaborate more and more. So that's what got highlighted in this conversation. Now moving forward, from a leadership point of view, now we know that everything that happens in an organization, the reason the organization is created is to solve certain problems, and as we solve those problems and get people together, there are project timelines, there are deliverables that are given that have to be achieved by those timelines. So as a leader, how do you ensure that each team who is not directly reporting to you stays on track with those timelines and deliverables?
Right, that's an important aspect because you will always have a finish line to reach in every project. And as I said, that different people have different priorities, and I always say that look to your employees and take actions by not just looking at their work, but look outside the work, because there's a lot of things that happen to people outside their work, outside the work. They have their lives. They also have highs and lows. They have their own struggle in their normal life. So just don't look at people from that person who has come to work with you for 9 hours every day. Get into that relationship, build that trust. I have many examples where people were struggling to complete their work, and they wanted off, and they were given an off, but they ensured that they work in the odd hours to complete that work. It is because you are able to build that relationship and that trust factor. There are a lot of people who occasionally work. And there's a classic example that I give you. There was a person, and I will come to your questions on how do you manage the timelines on this. Is again, this is an example of cross-functional team working, where I knew that one of the resources has the skill set to drive a particular project, but
Mhm.
unfortunately this person was also involved in another critical project at that point of time, and we thought that, okay, if we compromise with this person, then we will jeopardize either of the project. But since we have been working closely with this person and was giving various opportunities, and he understands the need, we said we will take the risk. We will take this person off this project and onboard him to the another project which is going live very soon. And this project needs him to be in Denmark, right? And he was managing a project which is in the Middle East. So you see, the cross functional working has also the time zone differences, right?
Mhm.
So we said that, hey, you leave this project, we will manage somehow. You jump onto this project, we will put somebody else. So he came to me and said that, thank you very much for this opportunity, but I am so glad that you're thinking about me as person rather than an employee and giving me this opportunity. I will ensure that I will also work on the Middle East project and also on the Danish project. And he used to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to attend the Middle East meeting, and then during the day will work on the Danish project. And that was possible because we got involved with that person. What's happening in his personal life? He used to share. We used to. I mean, somebody is not well. A critical project is going on. You just say that family first and let person go. I never told him that you need to finish it. I was arranging for other people, but he did work on the odd time and kept us informed. So it is important, again, the emphasis on the people. Though to drive cross-functional project, it is very important that you have the right set of governance setup, right set of forums that is set up where you're getting the regular update on what is happening. You in the cross-functional world, you do not give people how to work. You just tell them this is needs to be done and this is the deadline, and you let people explore themselves and find the work. Because remember that in a cross-functional team, you are more working with set of experts who may know more than you.
mm,
I very often
mm,
say to people when they say that how do you manage such a diverse portfolio of work, where you have to manage the HR, you have to manage the finance, and you have to interact with the ERP solutions, etc., etc. I said the beauty of this job is that I don't need to be an expert on everything. There are people who knows better than me. I just have to connect those people at the right time, and that is
mm,
why the governance forum, the forum with the right people at the right place, who are decision makers, who are important stakeholders, it is very important to keep them connected for for a cross functional project to be successful. In very
mm,
classic example, in a India project, which is basically an India domestic project, an expertise is required from a Danish market because they are expert on that particular subject. We got that person from there to work on this project because we know that this is how the things will work. Now, of course, culturally we are different, like, but we are able to manage because we know that we engage the right set of leadership at the right point of time. We didn't worry about he's from a different setup, we are from a different setup, but we were only focusing on deliverable, and we were focusing on the governance, that this person might be working on different project versus the other priorities. So governance is very important. You can, while, so I mean, a cross-functional project is more like changing the wheels of the bus while the bus is on the go. So you need to be very vigilant at all point of time, have the right set of governance, right timing of those calls, right stakeholders involved to ensure that the project is getting delivered. And don't think that if you have drawn a line, that line will be followed. You will draw a line straight, but you will reach the project like this. But that's okay,
mm,
because that's how that's the reason why leaders are there, because they understand that it will not be a straight line or the linear line to the success. It will always
mm,
be bumpy rides, but that is how you will manage with experience.
mm. True, true. And Deepak, what? Again, more than what you spoke about human connection, which you emphasized more on in this answer, how important that becomes to understand people beyond the employees or the job description that they have been hired for, and how that relationship helps people to
Yeah,
give more to the organization because they relate with the organization more than just a workplace. They stay more committed to what they can do for the leader, for the organization. And there are a lot
correct.
of times, I very firmly believe from my own experience is that we a lot of times we speak about organization, but if you look at it at a very true real level on the ground, for an employee who is working at a certain level, their visibility or their map of the world of the organization is only what their leader has created for them. Beyond that, there could be 100 different things happening in the organizations which they have no visibility to or no interaction with. So what you rightly said is that, as a leader, you are creating their experience with the organization, you are driving their commitment towards the organization, because for him or her it goes through you and not beyond you. So that becomes very important as a leader to understand and to be aware and implement things on. And
true.
you mentioned about governance, you mentioned about timelines, and then you said something, very interesting and very important, that there needs to be a timely check on it. And I think that also goes missing a lot of times, that a lot of leaders feel that, okay, there are cross functional teams, there are experts there, so you get them together and you're like, this is what we want, and get this done, and get it done by 25th of September. And then you again see it on 20th of September in a report, and you're like, what the hell, it's not even at 40%, it's not even at 30%, how will we deliver in 5 days? So that is something that a lot of people miss, that there needs to be a timely check. You need to have those milestones put in place where you're like, ठीक है 50 दिन का project है, तो every 10 days we'll meet and see what's happening across the functions, what is the progress everybody is making, what are the challenges people are going through, and support each other and move forward. I think वो बहुत important चीज आपने बोली, जो लोग मिस कर जाते हैं. वेरी वैलिड पॉइंट, क्योंकि ना वो फ्रीडम के चक्कर में बहुत लोगों को लगता है कि ठीक है, एक्सपर्ट्स हमने ला दिए, अब ठीक है, सीधे 25 तारीख को मिलेंगे, एक्सपर्ट्स हैंडल कर लेंगे. बट ऐसा होता नहीं है. दैट्स नॉट लीडरशिप. Leadership is that you bring them together as one team, you keep a check on them, you check how they're doing, what's working, what's not working. So ये miss हो जाता है. So thank you for bringing this up, Deepak. A very important point relevant to our question of how do you keep people on track in terms of deliverables and timelines. That is through creating proper boundaries, creating timelines, and timely checks. Okay, great. आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Great. So moving the conversation forward now, again, we're looking at the challenges for leaders to understand, what can happen, because you very rightly said कि एक straight line to होने नहीं वाली. It's going to
Right.
be a bumpy ride because you are changing the wheels while the bus is running. So it is not an easy task as such. That is why leadership becomes more critical and important in this. So coming to leadership aspect of it now, a very important part of driving any organization, team, or a project is making decisions, right? But when you have diverse people from different functions, from different setups, everybody has their own unique expertise and priorities, right? So how do you balance decision making while you're ensuring that effectiveness and fairness? How do you do that as a leader?
I think this is very relevant in the when you drive a cross-functional leadership, that decisions has to be taken, and it is very common practice, or it's very important that when you take a decision, you don't look biased, because it is very important with so many diverse set of people, so many people with different expertise and different priorities. If you take a decision which may be technically right, but people will still perceive it as biased, because they have different expectations, and you need to see people where they are, not where you want them to be. So it is important to be, sometimes it is more important to be politically correct than just correct, right? And
Explain that. Can you elaborate on that?
so so some say, for example, if I have, there is always a perception, or what we have been brought up with is always speak truth, right? But that's outside the corporate world. In the corporate world, you still speak the truth, but you don't have to be brutally truth. I mean, you can't have it on the face of the people. You have to understand the various cultural sensitivities of the people, and then you need to pass on the feedback. It passing the feedback to an individual is not your sole job, right? There are various people and different hierarchies through which the feedback need to be passed. Your
Hmm.
objective at this point of time is to complete the project while being very sensitive to the people. Don't be biased to the people, because that's disrupting your image as a leader, right? There is a very important thing in the leadership, that leaders leave shadows. Whatever you do, it will always leave shadows and images to the people to follow, right? You don't want wrong precedents to be set up. So the important thing in a cross functional project is to ensure you are very data driven, right? I
Hmm.
mean, if data is there, you are presenting the facts, then it is very little chance that people will feel that you are biased, because data speaks
Hmm.
for themselves, right? And there is a
Hmm.
famous quote which says that in God we believe, everybody else bring data. So it is important that you, while you go for any sort of meetings or while you are taking a decisions, you are examining the every aspect of the data, because data can talk the language you want. Data can be on Prashant's side or Deepak's side from the point of view. So it is important to assess the pros, cons of the data, where it is falling, because of course data can be read in different fashions. So you have to examine the perspective while reading the data and read between the lines as well, and use data as a support. Data is never conclusive. You have to use your experience, your leadership, your cultural awareness, and things like that, and put data into a storyboard, and then tell people that this is how it is and that's why you are taking this. Whatever position you are, if you say that I am taking that decision without giving any reasons, then that will be treated as not democratic but autocratic, which is not the way of working in a global, in a cross leadership environment or a cross functional environment. So you need to ensure that while you are conducting a meeting, while you are taking a decision, people also understand why you took that decision without being biased. And the best way to do is to be a data driven and build a story around it. That something, I present a data and I go to a meeting and say something. There was a classic example where somebody came with a set of data and say that, look, Deepak, data is saying that. So I told them the data is speaking the language which you want them to speak. But if you turn the data other way around, it will be pointing fingers on you. So you have to analyze and do your homework before doing these meetings, and be very clear and transparent on why you think this should be taken, and then be ready to take people's feedback and change your decision basis on what people are saying. Because as I said, you are not projected as an expert while you still drive in a leadership position across functional project. The experts will have their say and you will miss some of the points, so you will have to incorporate that, and that is how you take it forward.
So from your response, Deepak, a couple of things that again stood out in this response for me was first, where you mentioned communication becomes very important, awareness of cultural sensitivities becomes very important because you're working with people of diverse backgrounds, maybe from this country, different countries around the world. So you have to
Correct.
be aware of that. And you said truth still remains truth, but how you put it across is something that you have to be more aware of when you're working with people from diverse backgrounds. You can't just assume कि अपने यहाँ ये चलता है तो everybody will accept it. That's not how it works. So you have to become
Mhm.
more aware of what is acceptable in different cultures. So that
Correct.
awareness is very important of how to project it. And second thing that you said, which is again very critical, is for decision making. Every time data becomes very relevant. If you are taking decisions without showing or presenting any facts or figures that are the base for your decision, then people will try to find ways of feeling that you're biased, or not just biased, maybe you're just autocratic authoritarian who just does what he wants to do or she wants to do and don't care about others perspectives, and then it becomes difficult to lead people. Who would want to work with that kind of a person, right?
Absolutely.
And more than that, our core objective of being in an organization is to serve the vision, the mission of the organization. That's why we are doing what we are doing. So if you as a leader are not making the most of the expertise of people who are coming to you as one team from across domains, if you're not using their expertise, their perspectives, their thought processes, then it is injustice or injustice to your role and to the organization that you're there to serve, the vision that
Correct.
you're there to serve. It's important that you make sure you're utilizing. So, and you said read between the lines. आपने बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज कही कि डेटा ऐसे प्रेजेंट किया जा सकता है कि द वे आई प्रेजेंट इट उंगली आपके ऊपर है, बट द वे यू प्रेजेंट इट उंगली मेरी ओर आ सकती है. It's very easy to just flip it and look it the other way around. I
Correct.
think that is why, as you rightly said, कि read between the lines, see all the perspectives of data that you can, and then put it forward as a storyboard for everybody to share their point of view. Then build consensus around that in terms of what is the best for the vision that we have, what is the best for the objective of the project. So I think that's a very important skill to have as a leader, and I think that is where leadership comes in. नहीं तो कहाँ के लीडर? अगर आप ये नहीं कर रहे हो तो लीडरशिप आई कहाँ पे? लोग तो वही कर रहे हैं जो उनको करना था, आपने किया क्या? Right? What is your role as a leader if you're not doing that? Right? माइक दीपक वॉल्यूम फिर से चली गई, वो माइक हिल गया शायद से.
Is it back now?
या
Yeah.
परफेक्ट.
So I think Prashant, one perspective for which you haven't asked me on any of the question that I like to bring, and this is my personal experience, is you while you start a project, there is always an expectation that your project will look like it and you will deliver like it, right? But the practicality is when the rubber hit the roads, there can be different ways of perceiving it. Never let a good be an enemy of the best, right? You said that you will go here, but you are only able to reach here. So this is not the last project that you're delivering. You learn from what you have done, what your team has done, what was missing, and what can be improved, and move on. Give feedback to the people, talk to people, and try to improve it. Don't try not to make mistakes, but make better mistakes, right? Because that
Nice.
is what experiment is all about. And a classic example from cricket history is Tendulkar was a brilliant individual, brilliant batsman, but he failed to be a good leader because he want other 11 people to be Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah, and that can't happen.
That can't
Very
happen. I
can't
mean
happen.
when people try to hire people and they have certain expertise and looking for people, I said that don't hunt for a purple squirrel. That does not exist. Don't go for the
Nice.
best man. Go for a man who fits into your culture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again,
So
that's where leadership comes in. That's the role of the leader. Like how you
that
said earlier, it's not going to be a straight line. Know that that is what leadership is. It is how do you manage and handle and execute and move forward in the journey where it is going to be a bumpy ride. You are there to manage those bumps and get people back on track, get the whole project back on track. That is why you've been chosen for that role, because you have that capability, that desire to do that.
true, true, true.
अगर आपका डिजायर लीडर बनने का ये है कि दैट इज वेयर यू हार्डली डू एनीथिंग and
Mhm.
that is where work ends and you relax, that's not the truth of leadership. I think you should stop aspiring to be one. Your real
Correct.
work starts when you become a leader, because that is where you are. Your contribution, your impact, and the shadow that you spoke about is what you start creating. So the
True.
impact is like a ripple effect. आपके रहते ना रहते दोनों टाइम में you are making an impact continuously on people and on the organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Prashant.
Good. So I
Yeah.
think a very beautiful thought, very insightful, reflective thought to end this conversation on. It was wonderful talking to you, Deepak. Thank you so much for bringing in such powerful perspectives in a very concise manner, in a manner where people can relate to it on the ground, understand कि हाँ ऐसा मेरे साथ हो रहा है, या मैं ऐसा सोच रहा हूँ, या मैं ऐसा प्रोजेक्ट लीड कर रहा हूँ, मेरी टीम में ऐसे लोग हैं, ये चैलेंज मैं फेस कर रहा हूँ. That's very important for people to relate and see themselves कि हाँ ये मैं हूँ, यहाँ मैं गलती कर रहा हूँ, या ये मैं सही कर रहा हूँ, ये मैं नहीं
True.
कर रहा हूँ. So that is what I think people will gain the most from this conversation. It was very relatable, very
Yeah.
implementable. So thank you for
Thank you,
doing
Prashant.
that.
Thank you
And
for this
again,
opportunity. Great to talk to you. Uh, an hour
you're
has
welcome.
passed, but I didn't realize it. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad you did. And thank you for bringing in your experiences, your wisdom, your perspectives to this conversation and this show. And the most important people are you, audiences, who build this show, make it what it is, and why I do. सिर्फ मेरे को और दीपक को बात करनी होती तो हम लोग एक जूम कॉल पे बात कर लेते. The reason we are here is for you, to add value to you, to understand and give you perspectives. So I hope you got value from this conversation. As I said, reach out to us on LinkedIn if you want to understand something more. Put it in the comment section. I'm sure Deepak will come and respond with his experiences, his perspectives to those comments. Leave a personal message if you would like to ask something not in public domain. That's up to you. We are here to serve, so we will be more than glad to entertain that in our own time. We might not be able to do it quickly, so have a little patience with that. But thank you so much for being here, for joining us, and if you're watching the recording, thank you again for your time. With the promise that we'll always bring in insightful conversation and serve our mission of spreading the message of authentic leadership because that's where I feel it's missing a lot. There are organizations suffering, there are people suffering, there are leaders suffering because the right ways of managing, the right ways of leading yourself and the people and the organization is not what we've been doing for a very long time. It's a lot of talk, but implementation, execution, learning, development is missing. It's just at the surface. And this conversation, this show is all about going deeper and giving you things to implement, to reflect on, to apply, so that you can bring in a change for yourself, for your people, for the organization in every way. So thank you again, and I shall see you with another insightful guest with more interesting conversations moving forward on all Saturdays, and that will be next Saturday at 11 a.m. again. So till then, have a great time, have a wonderful weekend, and see you next Saturday. And thank you, Deepak, once again for bringing in what you brought. Amazing perspectives. Thanks again for your time. You too have a great weekend.
Thank you, Prashant, for inviting me to this show, and thank you everybody who's listening live or will listen a recorded version of this. Please feel free to reach out to me or Prashant if you need me. We are available on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, and looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye.